Is 3I/ATLAS a spaceship? Right now, social media is buzzing with 3I/ATLAS conspiracies. Plenty of folks believe that this mysterious object, which we know came from interstellar space outside our solar system, is actually a spacecraft or a probe. They claim its mission is to study the solar system while avoiding being detected by Earth. Yes, I'm serious. And leading that belief is Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb. Loeb says there are 8 pieces of evidence suggesting this could be an alien mothership. What's going on? Could 3I/ATLAS really be a space vehicle? Let's find out. What is 3I/ATLAS? Since 2017, we've identified 3 separate interstellar objects that entered our solar system. 1I/Oumuamua, 2I/Borisov, and 3I/ATLAS. I've told their story before. But in that video, we focused mostly on 1I/Oumuamua and only touched briefly on 3I/ATLAS. I promised I'd do a new video if we got more data. Well, this is that video. I won't repeat the whole tale of how we know these objects came from interstellar space. If you're curious, check out that earlier episode. I'll just remind you that the projected path of 3I/ATLAS from March 11th, 2025 through June 26th, 2026 looks like this. It enters our system at a very shallow angle relative to the way the planets orbit, gets deflected a bit by the mass of the sun and the rest of the system, and as we discussed before, continues on a non-closed hyperbolic trajectory, not orbiting the sun, and eventually exits the neighborhood. Right now, late October, early November, 3I/ATLAS is somewhere between Earth's and Mars's orbits. And this trajectory is at the very center of claims that 3I/ATLAS might be an alien ship. Who is Avi Loeb? As I noted before, the leading voice behind these claims is the high-profile astronomer Avi Loeb. His CV is packed. Head of the Galileo Project for searching for extraterrestrial technological artifacts, founding director of Harvard's Black Hole Initiative, former chair of the Department of Astronomy at Harvard, director at the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, former member of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, and former chair at the National Academy's Board on Physics and Astronomy. He's the author of Extraterrestrial, the first sign of intelligent life beyond Earth, and co-author of the textbook Life in the Cosmos. So going by titles alone, it's hard not to take Loeb seriously. The problem starts when you look closely at his arguments. Loeb's claim is that 3I/ATLAS is not a natural body and could have been sent by an intelligent civilization as a mothership. He literally writes this in his Medium post. If 3I/ATLAS is a giant mothership, it will likely keep traveling along its original gravitational path and eventually leave the solar system. In that case, the reason to use an Oberth maneuver near perihelion could be to release mini probes toward planets in our system. Oberth effect. Why is 3I/ATLAS's orbit called weird? Loeb's main point hinges on October 21st, 2025. On that date, as you can see from the trajectory, 3I/ATLAS was near one of its greatest apparent distances from Earth, and the sun sat directly behind it from our viewpoint. In other words, for a few days around October 21st, Earth-based telescopes couldn't see 3I/ATLAS because the sun was in the way. Loeb reads this as a deliberately planned concealment. His reasoning is that in astronautics, the best place to speed up or slow down a spacecraft is when it's closest to a massive body, the moment when an Oberth effect burn is most efficient. For 3I/ATLAS, the time to benefit most from the Oberth effect would be October 29th, 2025, about 8 days after that solar conjunction. Loeb asks, is this timing just a coincidence, or the result of intentional orbit design? My answer, yes, a coincidence, and that's okay. The loaded question problem. What does coincidence mean in science? Loeb leans on the word coincidence the same way science skeptics often do, as if it meant mindless, aimless happenstance. In science, that's not what it means. If you go that route, then everything from a falling apple to cosmic expansion, and yes, even the worst medical tragedies, would be just coincidence. In scientific reasoning, unless we have very strong positive evidence for a design-based teleological explanation, we avoid it. What sounds like mere coincidence to a lay audience is often just a low probability event occurring somewhere in a vast, busy universe. And here's the kicker. Many comets, roughly 20 to 35%, end up behind the sun from Earth's perspective near perihelion, making them unobservable for a while. 3I/ATLAS fits that pattern. Black Swan Talk is 3I/ATLAS a natural comet? Loeb also hedges. Despite all the speculation, he writes that for now 3I/ATLAS looks like a natural comet. Then he pivots to say that if it executes an Oberth maneuver, the potential impact on humanity means we should treat it like a low probability, high impact black swan. That framing lets him say two things at once. To skeptics, sure, it's likely natural, and to fans, but what if it's not? The 5 pieces of evidence. Claim 1. Why is 3I/ATLAS's inclination to the ecliptic so small? Loeb argues that entering the solar system at a small angle to the ecliptic, the plane of the planets, indicates a plan to shoot probes at the planets. That's a poor argument. Interstellar objects and ordinary comets can enter at all sorts of angles. If near ecliptic meant artificial, then our system would have been visited trillions of times. Also, many of our telescopes are oriented toward the ecliptic because that's where lots of interesting activity is. So we're biased toward detecting objects with smaller inclinations. Loeb knows about observation bias. He just doesn't foreground it here. Claim 2. Why is the tail pointed toward the sun? Loeb notes that a comet's tail typically points away from the sun, yet 3I/ATLAS's tail appears toward the sun. Astronomers do see sunward tails. It can arise from the object's geometry and the dynamics of dust lifting off the surface. Sometimes the sunward-facing side simply has more volatile material, causing more gas and dust to be released in that direction. This has nothing to do with being a spacecraft. Claim 3, why are mass and speed anomalous? He also claims 3I/ATLAS is 1,000,000 times more massive than 1I/Oumuamua and 1,000 times more massive than 2I/Borisov and moving faster than both. First problem, our mass estimates for 3I/ATLAS carry huge uncertainties. For example, Hubble data suggest a size anywhere from approximately 320 meters to 5.6 kilometers, a range that implies a potential mass difference of thousands of times. Quoting precise ratios here is unreasonable. As for speed, interstellar objects come from different sources with different ejection histories, so their speeds will naturally vary. Comparing them like for like is a category error. Claim 4. Why does it pass near Mars, Venus, and Jupiter while dodging Earth? Loeb says 3I/ATLAS entered in a window that let it pass near Mars, Venus, and Jupiter while being hard to observe from Earth. Again, he's implying intent. Is there positive evidence for that? No, just speculation. Many comets have perihelia that coincide with solar conjunction, making them hard to see for Earth-based observers. With 8 planets moving at different speeds, almost any random inbound path will pass within tens of millions of kilometers of some of them. That's not anomalous, it's statistics. Claim 5. Why is there too much nickel in the gas cloud? Loeb points to measurements indicating the surrounding gas is richer in nickel than iron, and that nickel cyanide levels exceed what we've seen in many comets, including 2I/Borisov. Some of those comparisons are real and a bit unusual, sure, but jumping from unusual chemistry to industrial alloy is a massive leap. This object originated outside our solar system. Its formation chemistry and subsequent processing could be very different. Astronomers have proposed natural explanations, e.g., metal carbonyl chemistry, that don't require aliens. And crucially, Loeb doesn't present a mechanism for how industry-like chemistry would occur here. Science needs mechanisms, not magic. Wrap up. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Bottom line, Loeb's mothership hypothesis rests on weak supports. He stacks them up hoping they'll add up to something, but they don't. Even 88 such points wouldn't turn this into a spaceship. Remember the rule, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A few oddities in an interstellar object are not surprising. Our definition of normal comes from the inner solar system. We heard similar hype about 1I/Oumuamua too. If we label every interstellar visitor a spaceship, we'll never get out of that loop. Worse, like the boy who cried wolf, if a real spacecraft ever did show up, public trust would already be burnt out. As for motivations, I said this before. Funding for speculative research is hard. Generating public excitement can drive dollars. I don't fault the hustle, but when hype crosses into misleading the public, that's a problem. Science fans shouldn't look the other way. And don't get me wrong, I'd love for aliens to exist, visit us, and end the uncertainty. But without convincing evidence, assuming that outcome isn't science, it's wishful thinking. Our first duty in science is not to fool ourselves. If we leap at every shiny story, we'll never find the truth. If you enjoyed this video, check out our piece on why it's so unlikely that aliens have already visited Earth. See you in the next one. Take care.